Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys a review for Boruto Chapter 45, and this chapter damn sure lived up to expectations. I gotta go ahead and just say that right out the box. I'm a sucker for chapters that are lore dumps, and that's essentially what we got in this chapter. Is one huge lore dump when it comes to the Otsutsuki clan, as well as confirmation of stuff that a lot of fans such as myself had speculated about when it comes to how the Otsutsuki are using karma, as well as what the actual god tree is. There was some new information that was added onto what we actually got in the Naruto manga in regards to the god tree, so that's very welcome right there. I love when they take stuff and expand on the actual lore, and in particular when it doesn't contradict what we actually got in the data books and what we actually got in the actual manga. So I'm a huge fan whenever series do something like that. Now what I will say is that I like also how this chapter picked up exactly where the last one left off, because last chapter it left us with one hell of a cliffhanger, and one thing I had to do a lot in the comment section was I had to explain to people what Amado said by defection. And I like how Sumire is basically saying the same thing I did, which is basically he's seeking asylum in Konoha. He's basically seeking protection from Jigen, and I like how Kawaki is putting all that information in there, and he's basically saying like, look, like for him even coming here, Jigen is gonna kill his ass. And so it's adding credit to what Amado is saying. And I also like how you get this throwaway line in there where they specifically refer to the members of Car as being cyborgs, because I've seen a lot of people refer to them as being androids, and I've been having to explain the difference between androids and cyborgs to people in the comments a lot. You know, with an android, you know, that's mostly a robotic machine, whereas a cyborg is just a human being that has artificial enhancements through mechanics. So I like how Kawaki is kind of throwing that in there, so now we can stop this whole android thing. But the thing I'll say about this chapter is when Amado is playing hardball, Ikimoto stepped up to the plate on this. Now you guys know I've been a huge critic of his artwork, but in this chapter Ikimoto did the thing I've been bitching and moaning about for quite a few chapters now, which is slow down and actually show us the scenes actually develop. And you know, you get these really nice moments where in particular when Shikamaru is getting ready to snap on Amado, you know, you get this scene where Naruto's got his eyes and he's looking and he's in deep thought. Then he tells Amado like, hey, okay, I'll hear you out. Sai, restrain Amado, take him to the interrogation room in the Hokage office. You have Shikamaru's eyes, they transition from being shocked to are you serious to all of a sudden they're narrowed down like he's questioning Naruto. Like, I love the little small stuff like that, and then the little small transitions you get where when Shikamaru is throwing Amado against the wall, you see it get ready to develop in real time, where you see Shikamaru, he got him up against the wall, and then you just see the moment where Shikamaru is coming through with that doubt before he actually puts him back in the chair and slams him down. I thought that was nice. Again, the scenes got slowed down, and by slowing down these scenes, there was so much extra tension added into this chapter. Like the conversation with Amado and Naruto, I felt like this was a nice touch to go this route, slow it down, because when you get all this lore in a chapter like this, you just don't want it where the characters are sitting down talking where it's story time. You want to bring the different personalities into play. Like we see a very serious mood where Naruto's Hokage is as dead serious as we've ever seen him, and you just see the difference in Shikamaru and Naruto, where Shikamaru, you can press the right buttons on him and he's gonna get emotional because he's thinking as a father, like, this guy has my son's life at stake, he can blow my son's head up at any given moment, I'm starting to get pissed off, he's losing his collective thought. And then you see Naruto, and it's easy to forget that Naruto's own son's life is at stake as well, because Naruto has information and he knows that Boruto has that karma. He knows that Momoshiki took over his son's body, or based on the information that Sasuke's given him and based on what they got from Sarada, they know that Boruto went through a transformation. And so Naruto has just as much skin, if not even more skin in the game than Shikamaru, and yet Naruto is playing hardball. And even Amado says, you're being really aggressive in these negotiations, aren't you? Don't you know I could end Shikadai's life at any given moment? And Naruto cuts all the shit. I love this version of Naruto. Like the goofy knuckleheaded little boy that we knew from chapter 1 of the series of Naruto has definitely blossomed, and we're seeing the Hokage version of Naruto in full swing. And that just shows you, while Shikamaru has the smarts to be Hokage, Naruto at the same time, he's grown grown in certain areas to where you could argue he's actually surpassed Shikamaru. It's because of his compassion as well as everything he's been through. He's got a little bit more patience. So I like seeing this development in Naruto's character. It's so hard when you have 700 chapters to develop a character and then you make him a support character in the sequel series. It's so hard to add stuff that develops his character, and yet we're seeing development in Naruto's character. So I gotta tip my hat to Kodachi for this because that's really nice writing. Now when it comes to the actual information that we get on how the Otsutsuki clan work, I like how we're getting a little bit of a rewrite on them, and yet at the same time it's not necessarily a rewrite because this is information that we suspected but we didn't actually know. The moment that they added in Karma into the series, it changed everything that we knew about the series, and yet at the same time there were signs that Karma existed going all the way back to when Kaguya made her debut, because if you guys will remember, you know, Kaguya took over Madara's body. You could argue that Kaguya used something similar to Karma in order to take over Madara's body, even though it wasn't necessarily a Karma seal. So it's the same thing here. I like how they're taking bits of the lore and they're adding other stuff onto it. So when Amado says that the Otsutsuki clan are parasites, we're seeing that in stuff that is supported in the Naruto manga. So I thought that that was nice. I also like how you get this moment where when they start talking about how with the Otsutsuki clan they eat the chakra fruit as a way to evolve. That again is something that's supported in the series. Now this time you have to go back to the filler that's added into Naruto Shippuden. Now in the manga it was stated that Kaguya ate the chakra fruit, but in that moment we didn't get confirmation in the manga whether or not she actually went through a physical transformation or not, whereas in the anime, and if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to go on my PC and see if I can find the links, but I remember when the anime got around to these episodes, I want to say around episode 460 of Naruto Shippuden, one of the things I remember reading was that I think it was a director for those episodes said that they borrowed information from Masashi Kishimoto on that. So when you look at Kaguya during that time period, she comes to Earth, she's got a very slender form, she eats the chakra fruit, and then she transforms into what we actually know. Amado says that they eat the chakra fruit as a way to evolve. Now the other thing on that is we also see that when you get to the moment where Kinshiki transforms himself into fruit for Momoshiki to eat, then Momoshiki evolves as well. So I like how they're continuing to build on this. Now the other thing that I thought was fascinating too was how they're setting up the fact that Amado could very well join Konoha to be part of the scientific ninja weapons team department, because you already have that moment where Katasuke is saying like I'd love to learn from him, and you have that moment where he, even Sumire is saying he should be able to help us with Kawaki's body. And I like how, you know, even Kawaki says this guy knows everything about every Kara member. So it's one of those things where I feel like this is being set in motion. I don't think that this is teasing. I don't think that Amado has an ulterior motive, especially given the fact that, you know, Jigen is aware of everything, which I'll touch on in a moment. But the other thing that I'll definitely say is that I also like how you get this moment where Sasuke is basically in the room as well, and Sasuke points out the fact that, you know, there's something else with the chakra fruit, and he basically gets to a point where he says like, well, you said that you said that Jigen was turned into an Otsutsuki by the person that is inhabiting his body, but Sasuke makes an observation. He says that horn shape, that Otsutsuki, the horn shape is similar, but that wasn't Jigen. So that basically, when you look at it, now we all jump to the conclusion that that was Isshiki Otsutsuki. Okay, we all jumped to that conclusion, but unless I'm misinterpreting what Sasuke's saying, Sasuke said that the shape of the horn is very similar, but that wasn't Jigen. Now, Jigen fought against Naruto and Sasuke, and he transformed into that Otsutsuki form, and yet at the same time, Sasuke's saying that doesn't look like Jigen. And Sasuke in the panel before that is thinking back to the form that he saw in that Otsutsuki clan lair, but he's not making the connection to Jigen when Jigen transformed. So it looks like we have another Otsutsuki outside of Isshiki. So that's going to be interesting if that is correct. Now, I like how Ikimoto draws Amado, and he has Amado saying, hold up, there's a sequence to this, it's a complicated story, let's take it step by step. So it looks like in the next chapter we are going to get some clarification on that, unless it's just a straight brawl between Kashin Koji and Jigen. But what I will say is the fact that I like how everything that we thought that we knew is either being confirmed or they're adding on to it. This is a game changer of a chapter right here, and this is another reason why I do think that we are heading towards a time skip, because anytime you start getting set up like this and you have an insurmountable force in this way, this lets you know that there is a skip coming. Like it really feels like they're building either towards a time skip or towards a major event. But what I will also say is I also like how when it comes to Ten Tails, we learn, okay, like this isn't the Ten Tails that Naruto and Sasuke fought. Now, we've all jumped to that conclusion to begin with. When that came out, one of the things I said is like, it looks like it, but I said I wasn't sure if that was just a design choice by Ikimoto, because Ikimoto's art style is a lot different than Masashi Kishimoto's. He can mimic it to an extent, but for the most part, his art style is different. And so for a second, I'm like, well, maybe that's the Ten Tails, but maybe this is just a different version. Amado confirms that. He confirms that this is a different version that Naruto and Sasuke fought, and this version in particular is the type of Ten Tails that they use whenever they go to the planet. So what they do is they plant the Ten Tails into the earth, and at that point it begins to absorb all of the nutrients to form the God Tree, and then as the God Tree is produced, it sucks away all the chakra out of every living being. And so I thought that that was interesting right there, because we do know that Jigen does want to bear fruit to a chakra fruit, and so in order to do that, it's going to consume all life on the planet. So this is interesting right here. This is interesting. So this Ten Tails is a seedling. Now that explains why you have that moment where Code is guarding the Ten Tails, and why Jigen puts so much emphasis on making sure that the Ten Tails is protected. I think that they're also setting up a Sasuke versus Code battle. I really think that that's the thing that they're setting up, because Jigen's immediate response was, well, I definitely think that Sasuke Uchiha interfered. Make sure you're on guard. We know that this Ten Tails seedling is going to be very important, but there's also a missing piece with this. We know from previous chapters that Jigen told the Ten Tails that I can't feed you the vessel yet. So I mean, that's gonna be interesting right there. Like, it looks like there's another piece in this. I think that, you know, he is gonna need Boruto and Kawaki, as Jigen stated, that they will become the perfect Otsutsuki that will help bear fruit to a new God Tree. So I think that there's a missing ingredient in this, and I think that Amado is working towards that. So the one question I do have though is this a moment where Amado is able to learn all this information because Jigen needs him to know everything so he can carry out the plan, or is this information that Amado was able to collect on his own? Because the thing is it seems a little convenient. I'm not saying I don't not trust Amado, but it seems a little convenient that he knows all the minute details when it comes to the Otsutsuki clan. Now again, that could be one of those things where, because of the position he's in, Jigen has to be up front with the guy. So it could be one of those. And if it is, I'm completely believable. But at this point, I do want to kind of say, keep Amado's words at arm's length when it comes to literature. Okay, I'm about to dive into my literary background for a second. So in literature, you have this term that's called the unreliable narrator, and it's one of those things where basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically, just because a character is saying something doesn't mean that it's true. Just because a character is providing exposition doesn't mean it's true, or doesn't mean that they have all the information. And it's one of those things where I don't necessarily believe they're going this route, but it could be one of those situations where Kodachi could be implying that. It could be something where that could be something he's going for. Now, the other thing that I will say is when Sasuke cuts right to talking about karma, he says, like, Jigen is a human who became an Otsutsuki because of the karma, right? Sasuke wants to know what exactly karma is, and it's because his student has karma, and he knows that Boruto was taken over, so he wants to get confirmation that Momoshiki's doing something with Boruto. And I think that, again, this is one of those times where they're putting more emphasis on Sasuke in these moments, because when he starts talking about karma, there's more emphasis on Sasuke's facial expressions than there are on Naruto's. Now, you see the bit of worry on Naruto's face when Sasuke talks about it. You see the sweat dropping down his face, but Sasuke, he has a very, very interesting look on his face. So again, that's something to kind of keep your mind on. But the big thing though, is while we were getting all this information, you know, you also in real time have Kashin Koji, and he's confronting Jigen. Now, a lot of us, myself included, thought that this was going to be a brawler chapter. chapter, and I like how they substituted the actual fight for more information, because now it's adding more context to what's actually going on with Kashin Koji and Jigen. Now we're getting more context to that scene, but you get this moment where Amado, through his glasses, is able to receive a transmission from Kashin Koji, and you basically get the revelation through the conversation with Jigen and Koji that Jigen did set up a trap. So people like myself who said that Jigen was playing the long game and he was setting up a trap for Kashin Koji, all that's been confirmed. Now the thing is though, is that Jigen has this line and he says like, look, we can drop all the pretenses, okay? We can drop all the pretenses. I already know that you're the one who attacked the airship. I already know that you and Amado are working side by side. I want to know, what do you gain in order to stand up against me? What is your purpose for doing this? And you get this moment where Kashin Koji looks like he's shitting himself for a second, and I don't know whether or not he was putting on an act. But what's interesting about that is the fact that Koji has that toad that is providing transmission in real time, and so it just shows you that this is one of those times where, you know, Koji might have been somebody who was able to use toads before, but again, his body's been scientifically enhanced, and so that might be how you have Koji and Amado talking or keeping transmission through those glasses. So that's going to be another interesting thing. And I think this is one of those times where, you know, if Koji falls in battle, if this is something that happens, by allowing them to see the fight with Jigen and see everything that's going on, they'll be able to gather extra intel, because, you know, it's one of those things where Amado knows that Naruto and Sasuke have fought Jigen before, but with a guy like that, the more intel you can gather, the better you're going to be able to combat him in the future. So that's going to be interesting just to see how that plays out. But the interesting thing with Kashin Koji, I had actually seen some of the spoilers for the chapter, and like I stated when I talked about the spoilers, I only looked at a couple of the images that were sent to me, and then I left the rest of it alone because I didn't want to go into this chapter spoiled. So it actually turned out to be a shadow clone that Jigen was stabbing. So that's good to actually see that. And I think that the best thing that you can kind of look at on that is that shadow clone was put into play the moment that Koji appeared in front of Jigen, where Jigen says, sit down, let's have a conversation. So I thought that that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting that Koji was able to point out that Jigen's mannerisms had changed, that he was putting on a front, but he was struggling to keep his breathing up. So it does look like what Amado said is true, that Jigen's only got about 10% of his power at this point, but he can still use that pesky ability where he can shrink himself and he can shrink other objects. And when you're fighting a guy like that, that makes it very hard to combat him. So I mean, the Koji versus Jigen fight is going to be something very, very difficult, but this does level the playing field for Koji. And when Koji says that, you know, I was built specifically to kill you, that means that Amado was able to enhance his body with something that's going to be particularly troublesome for Jigen. I like how Boruto for the very first time is able to actually see Jigen, so I thought that that was interesting. The one thing that I would have liked to have seen a little more, I would have liked to have actually seen Kawaki have more of a knee-jerk reaction to seeing Jigen once again. Like, I would have liked to have seen a little more because of how closely those two characters are tied together. I thought that when he first appeared in Naruto's living room, I thought that that was perfect, and I would have liked to actually seen a little bit more built on that, but that could be one of those things where they're just saving that. And, you know, again, I don't want to harp on that because I have to give Ikimoto credit. He did step up his art in this chapter, and particularly stepped up his paneling. Like, there's this one shot where he plays with the way that the panels are laid out, where Code, when you get the close-up of his face and you see how that panel's drawn, and then you see how the next one's disproportionate, and you see how it's actually drawn in a way to where it makes the ten tails bigger, and yet at the same time Code's actually looking down at it. I thought that little small touches like that were really, really nice. Like, I thought that that was nice. Again, he slowed down the moments more where you see the characters react in real time. So I mean, I like this, and you know, the reason why I do harp on Ikimoto as much as I do is he said multiple times when he was an assistant for Masashi Kishimoto, he consistently ran late on his assignments. And with a guy like that procrastinates and tends to do stuff at the last minute, you do see you in corners to cut. So with a chapter like this, it's nice to see that he actually took his time and actually fleshed out some of the scenes. So I give credit where credit is due. Like, I give credit where credit's due. I thought that was nice. I'll probably say one of my favorite scenes in this chapter is the way that he structured the panels towards the end, where you see Jigen and Jigen's reacting to Koji throwing those shuriken, and the way that everything's slanted, where you have Koji slanted like he's coming out the seat and rushing towards Jigen, but you see the lines and everything on how they're emphasizing the speed. You see Jigen's reaction, and then you see Jigen, because the lines are on the side showing speed of movement. What you're actually seeing is that Jigen was able to shrink himself in that moment. You know, the only thing I would like to see is actually see his body actually shrink, but because we know that is something that he's able to do, you're able to put the pieces together. And what I also like is, again, how you see, again, through the slanted panels, you're seeing Koji from behind, and then you're seeing his shocked expression, and then you actually see him before it's too late realize that he got stabbed. So I thought that those were really, really nice sequences right there. I like how that was handled. And the other thing is that I will definitely say that when it comes to Koji, he says, I have no interest in the chakra fruit. The only thing I'm worried about is actually killing you. So the reason why that's interesting to me is it almost seems like, and I could be mistaken, but it almost seems like Koji, when he says I have no interest in the chakra fruit, is alluding to the fact that Jigen might already have something in process to where that 10 tails is being planted into the earth. Now, I could be reading too much into that, but the reason why I say that is you wouldn't say I have no interest in the chakra fruit if you thought that there was a way to actually prevent that from happening. Because if the 10 tails is planted into the ground, if it bears fruit for a god tree, that means everyone, including Kashin Koji, is dead. So it could be one of those things where either Koji's trying to kill him before that as a way to try and stop it, which that could be possible, or it's already been set in motion, and after you kill Jigen, you have to worry about the chakra fruit after that. So that's going to be interesting, man. That's going to be interesting. Again, I like how this chapter adds more to the lore of the actual series. Overall, I will definitely say this was a very good chapter. This was a very, very good chapter. I mean, we have a lot of little things that are teased, a lot of Easter eggs. We also have a lot of things that are being set up. So overall, I thought that this was a pretty good chapter. So my chapter question to you guys, I'm going to have two chapter questions. So the first question is, do you think that Amado is going to be allowed to join Konoha and work beside Katasuke? Do you think that's going to happen? And my second question for you guys is, with all this new information that's being brought in about the Otsutsuki clan, what do you guys think about that possibility that Sasuke raised, that basically what they saw in Jigen is not actually what he saw in that Otsutsuki clan lair? What do you think that means? Do you think that that's an Otsutsuki king, or do you think that there's something else with that? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.